This is my new Walnut and Epoxy sit standing desk. It's sleek, it's shiny, and it took me way too many late nights and questionable life choices to build. But hey, it was worth it. Stick around because I'm about to show you how this thing went from a pile of wood and goo to this beauty right here. Yes, the mighty walnut slab. Nature's way of saying, you thought IKEA was enough? Well, think again. This thing weighs about as much as my self-doubt halfway through this project. So yes, gentle does it. Alright, first order of business, stripping off the bark. Because as beautiful as it looks, that stuff doesn't mix well with the epoxy. Now I'm using this old school chisel and hammer, which means it's just me, the wood, and the occasional fear of slipping and stabbing my workbench. This is the part that makes you feel like an actual craftsman, even if you spent the last 10 minutes googling which side of the chisel is sharp. Inside this crack, it's packed with these weird little wood fibers. Kinda looks like the slab's been growing its own beard. So time to give it a trim. Gotta clean it out before the epoxy pour, or it will trap air bubbles faster than I trap sawdust in my hair. Alright, time to clean the other side. Easy enough, right? Just flip the slab, casually. Like it doesn't weigh as much as a small car. This is where I question every life choice that led me to thinking, yeah, I can totally do this alone. Now just when I thought I was winning, the walnut strikes back. Yep, rotten wood and bug holes. Nothing says premium hardwood like discovering an entire ecosystem inside your slab. But we have to get this cleaned up. Time to gear up, remember safety first. This little guy, my secret weapon, the baby grinder. Small, loud, and way too confident for its size. Basically the chihuahua of power tools. Now this is satisfying. All that rough bark coming off, revealing that smooth, rich walnut underneath. It's like giving the slab a fresh haircut after a rough breakup. And just like that, the walnut is finally showing its true colors. Rich, smooth, and full of character. Like it's forgiving me for all the hammering and chiseling. This crack right here, most people would see it as a flaw, but in the world of woodworking, that's called personality. And this noddle, pure attitude. Now we'll be making the cut, but we're playing it smart. One shallow pass at a time. Why? Because nobody wants their beautiful walnut turning into a smoke signal. Patience is key here. Every pass a little closer to victory. Now before the river flows, we need a little infrastructure. Partially built, two sides open mold, basically a fancy cradle for the walnut halves. Leaving the sides open make it easier to slide the slab in place without causing a catastrophic game of wood Tetris. With the slabs in place, it's time to lock everything down. The mold is sealed tight because nothing says disaster like epoxy spilling everywhere. And now, the moment where things get serious. Meet the stars of the show. With the epoxy prepped, black dye added, this is the part where a little patience goes a long way. I'm just using a paint mixer on a battery drill, which basically turns me into a mad scientist, stirring up a river of molten black magic. The Key here, slow, steady and thorough. You want every bit of the two-part epoxy fully combined. Slowly, carefully we pour. Patience is key. Rushing this is how you end up with bubbles trapped like tiny epoxy prisoners forever. Every pour is also a test. No leaks, everything level, and most importantly, don't panic if a little gets on the clamp. This is a multi-layer pour because deep pour epoxy likes to shrink if you get too greedy. Now for the tiny details that makes a huge difference. Filling these knot holes, the little imperfections become features, and every filled hole is a small victory. After letting the first layer cure, it's time for round 2. Layer by layer, we're building up the river, making sure it's deep, glossy and bubble-free. Second layer almost complete, and the slab is officially starting to feel like a finished masterpiece. Well, a masterpiece in progress. But still, progress counts, right? Now it's time to flatten the slab on the router sled. Shallow passes only. One wrong move and the beautiful epoxy could tear out faster than my confidence in a math class. Also note the mess, dust everywhere, epoxy chips flying. Apparently my dust collection system prefers to spectate rather than participate. Next up, cutting the long sides to its final dimensions. Precision is key here, because one rushed pass can leave burn marks and nobody wants that. Shallow passes only, slow and steady wins the race, or at least prevents me from turning this gorgeous walnut into a slightly toasted disaster. Every pass gives a cleaner edge, a smooth finish, and a little more confidence that the slab is officially becoming a desk. Now for the short edges, cutting end grain is a whole different beast. It demands patience, precision, and a lot of respect. Go too fast and you risk tear out. Go slow and you risk impatience, which is basically the same thing, but with less control. Step by step, pass by pass, these short edges are becoming clean, square and ready to frame the river like a gallery-worth piece of art. Time to bring the slab to its final glory. First up, 80 grit sanding. The rough work that smoothes out the journey from raw walnut and epoxy to a desk that actually looks like a masterpiece. Next up, tiny imperfections. Meet instant perfection. I'm filling all these small holes with thick black CA glue because why wait for hours when you can have seconds? A quick spray of activator and just like that these little blemishes vanish faster than my free time when a project starts. Behold the aftermath of patience, precision and maybe a little insanity. Every single hole filled and yes, it felt like a few hundred even if it was technically less. And just like that, all the tiny repairs disappear. Every hole, every imperfection completely gone. Now we're adding some hidden muscle. Using a palm router to cut slots for the C channels, these babies will keep the slab from bowing over time. Think of it like giving the table a spine. Without this, all the gorgeous walnut could slowly turn into a sad, saggy mess. Not on my watch. Precision is key here, too shallow or too deep, and it's either useless or a structural nightmare. Now it's time to secure our hidden reinforcements, carefully drilling the right size holes through both wood and epoxy for the metal inserts. Tiny dab of CA glue on the threads and just like that you're locked in, not moving anywhere. The table is officially one step closer to being both beautiful and bulletproof. It's meticulous work, but these details are what separate a good desk from a river table legend. Now for the temporary installation of the C-channel, just snug the bolts enough to hold it in place. No need to go full torque yet. The permanent love affair comes later, after the hard wax oil has done its magic. Time to bring in the muscle, the standing desk frame. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Check out these specs. This thing isn't messing around. Weight, size and sheer sturdiness. It's ready to support our beautiful walnut river table like a champ. Now we're just carefully adjusting the frame, making sure everything lines up perfectly before we bolt it down. Time for the little finesse. I'm cutting a 22-degree chamfer along the underside of the table edges. A subtle detail that makes a huge difference. Now just one last sanding pass to make sure every surface, every edge, every chamfer is absolutely perfect. This is also a subtle but crucial detail. An 8-inch round over on the top edges, just enough to remove the sharp corners. Smooth, safe and ready for a lifetime of elbows, arms and accidental bumps. Time for the finishing touch. Rubio monocoat, 2 parts, 1 magical effect. And yes, just a tiny bit is enough to cover the entire tabletop. Time for a little chemistry. Measuring out 2 parts of Rubio. Precision is key here. Too much of one part and we're in trouble. Now just a gentle mix, because we're not just simply stirring paint, we're stirring magic. Smooth, even and ready to bring this table to life. Starting with the underside first, gently pouring a small amount of Rubio and spreading it with a plastic squeegee. Just look at that, a little goes a very long way. One tiny dab and the entire surface is covered. Time to wake this table up. Using a humble automotive polisher to massage the Rubio into the grain. Cheap tool, big results. Proof that techniques matter more than fancy gear. After letting the Rubio sit for a few minutes, it's time to wipe off all the excess. This step is crucial. Leaving any behind can dull the perfect finish. Now for the permanent installation of the seat channels. Snug but not overly tight. Remember, wood likes to move and breathe and we don't want to force it into a straitjacket. Next up, this is the mounting holes for the standing desk frame. Already marked and perfectly placed. Precision matters here. Drilling small pilot holes for the control panel screws because we love our wood and splitting is strictly off limits. A little patience, a few careful movements and the control panel slides into place like it was always meant to be there. Tiny steps, but each one makes the desk not just functional but polished and professional. And here it is, the Walnut and Epoxy sit standing desk, fully finished and ready for action. Every crack, every knot, every detail carefully preserved and enhanced. And that epoxy, just look at that glow. Smooth, sturdy and fully adjustable, from sitting to standing with just a tap. Function meets beauty in one seamless package. Months of work, countless tiny steps, and a lot of sawdust later, we have a desk that's not just finish, it's not just furniture, it's a centerpiece.